I didn't hear anything actually till now.
Okay, well, really all I did was read the introduction that Mark sent me in his own words to our private message on Facebook. I just reread it to the people in Hash Church, and then sort of was going to put it up to you. So really, if you wanted to just tell your story, we are really open and ready to hear it.
Okay. I'm not gonna rush, but I'm gonna do as fast as possible because I only have like 30 minutes left here on break.
Okay.
I know I just sneak out of work. Ironically, I work in a pharmacy, which is ridiculous. I'm actually at work right now. This is kind of funny to the whole situation because I'm completely against everything that we have here. But my daughter, Antonia, is 10. She has Dravet syndrome. She was having between 100 and 400 seizures a day. Uncontrolled seizures. So any medicine that she's had, it didn't work. Sometimes it would work for a couple of days, and then she would go right back to seizures. And she never really was ever seizure-free. It all started right around 6 or 7 months old when she had her first series of vaccinations. She immediately had a fever, shoot up probably like 103, I believe. Within 24 hours, she had her first seizure. It progressively got worse and worse and worse, and they told us that she wouldn't. Children usually don't make it out of that situation to become teenagers and adults, and they gave us a lifespan of 7, which we kind of weren't trying to hear that. So we just started to go all around the country, research and stuff. It was like me and my mom were kind of too persistent. I mean, it became an obsession. Trying to figure out how we can get her some help. We seen a documentary on CNN about Charlotte Figge and the medical marijuana. That's when we decided to start doing more. With the same problems. That is where I had the pleasure of meeting, well, not where, but how I had the pleasure of meeting our friend Patrick from Pittsburgh Normal and Mark and a couple other people, very awesome people, really keeping up the fight here. And we just became extremely, extremely dedicated to trying to find a way to get this here in Pennsylvania. You know, we seen it on TV, where we seen it, heard about it working, but we just needed to see for ourselves if it worked or not. So we met with some people, and on December 16th, my daughter, at 400 seizures a day, had her first dose of medical marijuana. For the first time in 10 years, she woke up and did not have a seizure. For the very first time, ever. And this was after she was on 0.3 mLs, which is, it was ridiculous. Like, I mean, it was like literally this much of a syringe. So my mom was like, we did not want it to work, but we were kind of figuring like, is there any possible way that this could be something else? Is there any way that this could be a coincidence? So she pretty much slept for the entire first day. We kept her home from school. Next day she woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and she said, I want some cereal. I'm sorry. She was nonverbal, maybe a few words here and there, but she put her first sentence together. And this is day 2 with no seizures after being on the oil. I went to work that next day, and my mom called me and she said, 33 hours, no seizures. And she went into the kitchen. She called me about 10 minutes later. She said, Naya's taking a nap. I'm going to go make some dinner. I'll, call you before you get home. And she called me and she goes, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? She said, I was in the kitchen making dinner and I heard somebody laugh. I heard a little giggle when I turned around and Naya was standing behind me in the kitchen. She was in a wheelchair. So within 3 days, she stood up and walked completely around my house to get into the kitchen by herself with no assistance and no seizures. So she went 4 days. straight, no seizures, talking. She walked up the steps for the first time ever. So we immediately contacted her doctors, and we were like, we know this works. This works. This is something that we need here. We're watching it work. We've got her tests. We've had tests run on her EEGs after her being on it, and they're baffled. It's literally miraculous results. After day 4, she did have a seizure, but it wasn't just brought on by itself. She actually just bumped her elbow. She had a little bruise on her elbow, and she bumped it off the table, and that usually would have set her into a grand mal, and it was just maybe like 3 or 4 seconds long, and it stopped. So anytime she gets the oil, it immediately, within seconds, right under her tongue, just immediately stops if there's a seizure. They're not crazy seizures anymore. They're not. She very, very rarely has any grand mal seizures. Now, these last 3 weeks, she's been having some pretty bad ones. Not nearly as many as before, but she has a vagal nerve stimulator implant in her chest, and the battery's dead. So we got to go get that changed for her on Wednesday. The battery replacement will be Wednesday. But even now with the seizure that she's having, like the seizure she's having now because of the dead battery, even when we give her the oil, they stop. Like, they come back. They're not as bad and they're not as long or as frequent, but they stop. And I don't think we're not stopping anytime soon. I mean, we met some really great people in Colorado. Dave and Elite Cannabis they're amazing people, and Mark, amazing person, and Patrick, they've changed our lives. We've had the very first Easter with her, no seizures on Easter and no seizures on Christmas. She opened her presents, and this is the first time we're actually getting to meet her ever in 10 years, and it's amazing. And I know that we can get that done here, and we need to get that done here. As many people, I don't care if I have to tell this story over and over and over again every day to 1,000 people until people are educated on this situation. I'm willing to educate as much as possible to make sure that people understand that this is something that works, and we need it. We need it to survive, and she needs it. And it's keeping her alive right now.
Well, it's very powerful stuff, Jessica. I'll tell you, I think someone in chat said, what is someone cutting onions in here? Teary eyes all around. It's very powerful stuff. It's what I've said many times over and over again, that that needs to be the face of this education and of this information, because the old sort of stereotypical Cheech and Chong stoner type negative has not really done our community a huge, it's fun for entertainment and comedy, but now that we're trying to actually, tell a story like your story, Naya's story, that's just so powerful. And just, I appreciate that you're strong enough to tell this story over and over and over again. And I really thank you for coming into Hash Church and sharing it with us. It's powerful stuff.
I appreciate the invite. I'm willing to try to get to as many people as possible, because when you hear about it, or when you live with something like that for so long, and you hear about anything that you think could possibly work, you're willing to convince yourself to try it. You should be willing to convince yourself to try it. I mean, it was different. It was difficult at first because my family is extremely conservative. I come from like a strong-rooted Italian family. They're conservative. They're not into all the drugs and all that. And I was trying to explain to them, about being open-minded. And when they found out that it was something that might have worked before we tried it, they were all for it. I mean, my mom says all the time, she laughs because she goes, my 70-year-old, I walked into the house the other day and my 70-year-old father was explaining to his 80-year-old brother, how we're trying to get her on medical marijuana. And now my entire family is educating people. I mean, older people, younger people. My nieces go to school, elementary school, middle school, and they tell their teachers, can we course on this? Can we tell other kids about this? And they're trying to explain it's not as bad as it's not a bad thing. It's not, of course there's going to be people to do stupid stuff, put stuff in it, but that's not the goal. we just have a lot of education going on, and I'm ready to just let as many people around the world know as possible that it's okay. And we've seen it work. We've seen I've seen it in person, and I live it every day now. That she is better. She has a life. After 10 years, I didn't know who she was. I mean, I knew she was in there, but she has a personality now, and she's able to be her as much as possible. She's not healed and she's not cured, but she's better. And I tell people that all the time. She's always going to be her. She's always going to have a problem. But if this is allowing her to be happy through that problem and to take the stress off and take the pain off, then I'm going to do that.
Are you getting support?
As many people, I've had maybe one or two people that I didn't know, like on Facebook, say, you know, why would you let her suffer? You might as well, you know. I've heard people say some really raunchy stuff. I don't even like to repeat. Maybe one or two people against it, but she's on the news here, and she's very well known here. And every time we go somewhere, people recognize her and they love her, and